sure that I have shared the January meeting minutes with everybody. Here we go. I don't think I forwarded these yet.
Yeah, I got the agenda, but I don't think I got the minutes.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. So let me forward that to all of you before. Okay, so just 1 second here while I'm taking care of this. That's the wrong file. This is what I need. Email addresses. There we go. There we go. All right, I apologize for the delay here. And I am forwarding everybody the meeting minutes. So if everybody can open up your email real quick and take a cursory look. But if anybody wants to send me any to the meeting minutes from last month's meeting, I will forward them to Amber Jane. She has made all the corrections. And I think we're up to date now with the meeting minutes from December. And so thanks very much, Amber Jane, for taking care of that for us. We appreciate it. Okay, now I lost my meeting. Where'd everybody go? There you are. Hey, Lori, how's it going? All right, so let me do this again. I'm going to share my screen and make sure that I have the correct thing up here, and we can get the show on the road. Desktop. All right. All right, does everybody see our agenda for today?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So we already mentioned some excused absences, but we do have enough to conduct a meeting. And are we, everybody's on the Zoom here, and are we live streaming to Facebook?
Yes, I saw it.
Okay. All right. Any questions about the agenda? Anything, any suggestions, additions, deletions? I'm kind of scrolling through, trying to read everybody's body English here. I think we're good. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So
I
motion,
will make a motion.
then I'll second.
All right, Scott makes the motion and Ian Magnuson seconds. All in favor? All right,
Aye.
let's get moving. Meeting minutes. Let's go ahead. Everybody take a look. Dr. Malowish, did you have a correction?
No,
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were raising your hand.
no, I'm just saying I agree, but I don't get to vote.
Oh, yeah, yes. Let's have everybody take a look at the January meeting minutes. And if you see anything that you feel like needs to be corrected, please send that along to me in an email, and I can forward it to Amber Jane. And we can get those corrected and then posted in the ECC shared drive. I'm going to give it about a minute and a half here for everybody to peruse, just in case.
Do you want us to do that now, Aaron, or just get back to you after we've had a chance to look at them more?
Well, you know what? Let's just do that. If you see anything through the meeting, if you're looking through it or you see afterwards, just shoot me an email in the next week or so, and then I can send those corrections on to Amber Jane.
Okay, then we can approve it next meeting.
Yep. And did I share? I apologize. Did I share the December 2020 meeting minutes with everybody?
I believe so.
Okay.
Not this week, but I think last month. you
Okay,
did.
so we don't. So there were a few corrections that Amber Jane made. So if we don't have any more corrections to the December 20 2020 meeting minutes, we can go ahead and approve those. And then we'll do January at next month's. So is there a motion to approve meeting minutes from December?
Motioned.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, Scott with a motion, Ian with a second. Amber Jane, if you're keeping score for the home audience. All right, let's get in the meeting here. Any announcements? What's good?
I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but Earth Day, I mean, there's still an Earth Day celebration planned to be digital this year.
Okay.
So keep a lookout for that.
How is that being done? Is there like a national network or something that Earth Day is that, or is there like
It's
local
local
thing?
organizers. So just basically the way it's been done the last few years, kind of like a board of organizers, and always welcoming new people depending on what they want to offer, all run by donations and volunteers. So
So for the online Earth Day, how connected are the local school districts to that? Do you know?
there's a different mailing list.
You cut out.
Sorry, I don't know when I got cut off there.
That's-
Last year, as a more last minute put together virtual Earth Day, we connected with Kalamazoo Public Schools and sent a little packet out with planting seed stuff and also a coloring book. So that went with like one of the pickup lunches kind of thing right around then. And there's all sorts of different online activities. So it's going to be similar, but also still work in progress for what it all will look like.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Sharon.
I have an announcement, and I can forward on more information. I don't know why I didn't think to do this already. Some of you may already have this information, but at Western's campus, the Students for Sustainability are having a students sustainability forum on Saturday, the 27th. I believe it's from 12 till 2. And so different groups are going to present some projects that they're proposing or that they're working on from the Climate Coalition. And you can sign up just as, an audience member, which I have done. So, get to hear these student presentations and hear about all the cool things that they've got planned. So I can forward that information. It was from Denise Keel, of course, Miss Organizer from the climate lobby, climate community, I guess. So I will send that on to Aaron, and he can send it out to everyone else. And
Great. I think Denise, that I was on that email list too, but maybe not. So yeah, please send that to me.
You probably were, Aaron. I would suspect if I got it, I'm sure you got it.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
lots of emails coming in and things get lost.
Yeah, I'd be happy to forward that one on. I'm actually going to take a physical note here of stuff to do forward. Dr.
Yeah, because if I don't send it to you tonight, give me a poke. I'm going to try to
Okay.
remember to do that.
Okay, cool. Anything else? Anybody else? All right, hearing none, I think we can move on here. Do we have any, it's Andy from IT, right? Do we have any guests that have called in tonight that we're hoping to speak?
There are no comments at this time.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mhm.
Anybody else on ECC? Any comments on any non-agenda items? I would imagine if you had a comment, you would have let me know. Of course, anything, especially for our new members, if there's stuff that you're hoping to speak to at our monthly meeting, please let me know so that I can get it on the agenda. All right, moving along here, we have Jamie McCarthy with us from City Kalamazoo to give us an update on the Kalamazoo Sustainability and Climate Action Plan. So Jamie, thanks very much for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back. It's been a number of months. Yeah, I was just going to ask if I could share my screen. I have a couple of slides here.
So Andy probably, okay, all right, cool.
Oh, good. I just figured out I got a new laptop, and I guess my screens are now opposite. I think I have the right screen up here now for you all, right? So you can see my slides here.
Yep, yeah, this looks right.
Awesome. Okay. So I wanted to start out with an update of.
Excuse me. I'm getting a huge echo. Am I the only one who is?
Yeah, there's something wrong with that.
Pretty bad.
Can everybody mute who's not speaking?
Looks like we got two Lori's. So Lori, did you log in twice? I think you're getting feedback on yourself or something. Might have to log out and log back in or something.
The problem is I logged out to try to look at I didn't log out, I minimized, and I guess my computer logged me out and back in. I'll just go off and try to come back on again.
Okay, I think we're good. All right. So yeah, I wanted to start out with kind of what's been happening since we last talked. And I think one of the last times we were together, Chair Wright and Dr. Denise Keel joined me, and we had a presentation that we gave and a nice conversation that we had at a city commission meeting at the end of October of last year. And at that meeting, we had heard from the ECC, urging the city commission and the city staff to keep pushing forward with a sustainability plan. We had sort of wrapped up some focus groups, and we were really to the stage of kind of going internal and getting all of our information and data together and start putting together a draft plan. And then also at that time, we heard from ECC that having a greenhouse gas inventory and a tool, in particular, ICLEI is one of those protocols that the ECC was really supporting. So that the city could be over time tracking greenhouse gases and making progress toward reducing those over time. And so city staff said, we'll start in on looking at greenhouse gas inventory stuff. We have been working with ICLEI and kind of getting some of their perspective on how best to do that. We have some older inventories that are just the city, like just our city-owned facilities. And when we looked at some of that and some of the gaps that are in some of those older inventories, ICLEI really steered us in the direction of doing a community-wide, right? So this is, all of the emissions, trying to measure and inventory all of the emissions that are coming from all sorts of activities in the city boundaries. And so this fall, we've been digging into that. We are starting to understand what our data gaps are. Where do we have really local good data and where do we just have missing information, right? Do some of our local agencies either collect data in a different way or not all of the data that's needed to be fed into that tool? And so we've been working on that a lot this fall and winter. And then also we were able to take all of that information from our advisory group, from our community survey, from the one-on-one meetings that staff had with folks throughout the community or organizations throughout the community. And then we also took a lot of information from focus groups that we had that we wrapped up last fall. And we started putting all of that together and saying, what does our action table look like? That's going to be the heart and soul of any plan. And so we have this goal-based action table that's in draft form that we have a little bit more work to do on, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And so then this winter, we also did an exercise where we looked through about 24 plans that the city has either created or a couple of different plans that have been done by different community organizations, all trying to, make sure we're putting together an action table and, very actionable things that are called for and related to other types of activities that are going on throughout the city. So for instance, we took a look at not only building code and zoning code, but we looked at stormwater, our city stormwater ordinance and tree ordinance, everything from different neighborhood plans that we have. And then we looked at some community plans too. So like CATS has a transportation study, right? And then also our hospitals have collaborated and recently published a community health needs assessment. And so we started looking at all of that and trying to, make sure we're, putting together an action table that kind of is inclusive of all those things. Aaron, did you want to say anything?
No, I'm sorry. You can just go ahead. I'll jump
Okay.
in.
And then we've also been fortunate enough. We have a new team member, a new person in our department, an AmeriCorps member who graduated from Western Michigan University last year, and he was an intern in our office. He's finished a master's degree in geography, and so he's been doing a bunch of mapping for us, looking at our zoning map and trying to figure out where could we prioritize density to help help us and help community members make different transportation choices. That's one example, but looking at a lot of different mapping tools that can help us prioritize. And so he's wrapping up some of those. And then in January, we took our goal-based action table. We took that draft and we got together with the heads of our different city departments, and we put it out for review and said, hey, take a look at this table. I think right now it's got almost 40 actions in it. So it's a big table with a lot of activities. And we said, hey, take a look at this. Help us understand, what we got right and what we missed, what other things you'd like to see on there. Help us start to understand some of the costs to these actions. And then we're starting to put together kind of a timeline. What are you and your department and your team working on in the next, short term, 2-3 years? What's going to be a little further out? What's a more long-term activity for your department? And then we just this month started doing some sort of one-on-one meetings with our departments, making sure that, their sections, their actions are things that they're ready to commit to. Or if we miss things that they are working on or planning on working on that relate to sustainability, we're trying to make sure all of that's in this table. So I don't have a table for you today. That's going to be the next thing rolling out here, is I'd love ECC's feedback, because much of the plan is very Kalamazoo city government based, or at least, things that we can lead or connect or advocate for. But there are going to be other things that maybe have a much more community focus or going to be led by other community entities. And so that's where I think ECC could also, give us some more perspective and be able to give us be able to review and give us feedback in that way. So I'll just kind of quickly talk big overview stuff, because I feel like we've talked about this a lot. And I know the ECC and our steering committee helped us kind of vision some of these things. But again, overall vision is this green, healthy city that is prosperous for all and focused on a just transition to that low carbon future that we envision. And then also a community that has increased resiliency. And again, the overall mission being a transition to a low carbon future. And we had those goals based on the Paris Climate Agreement. The scope here that you're going to see in the plan is certainly focused to a degree on city government, not just city properties. I want to make that distinction, but the work that the city does. We work, both internally on our own facilities. We certainly offer a lot of utilities to the community. And then also we have different departments that work with the public a lot. If you think about Parks Department or community planning, for instance. And then I think in the next couple of months, we need to really have some discussions with some of our community stakeholders, thinking about the community-wide piece and where we are going to have to really lean on some of our partners to help lead, and then understand, what's the city's role? Are we connecting different partners? But knowing that the plan isn't just going to be a city plan, it's a community-wide plan. And then we had some questions in this planning process when we're talking about these actions, what's the duration of a plan like this? And so I think the shelf life here is about 10 years, but something that staff and community members, a board like ECC would be checking in on at the midway point, right? So every 5 years, really looking at what the activities are or what the actions are, and recalibrating or changing things to make sure they fit the community's priorities and are getting us toward our goals. But ultimately, when we're sitting down with the departments looking at these actions, we had said, some of these goals are going to be decades long, right? Getting to 90% emissions reduction is going to take 2 decades or even 3 decades. And we're going to have to rely on technology that maybe doesn't exist now, or funding that doesn't exist now. But think about this sort of very long term and how we can be positioning ourselves to take advantage of, or be testing or thinking about how to transition to new technologies when they are, brought to market or when they're emerging. Okay, so I wanted to show you this graphic here. I think when we first started out in early planning, our steering committee, our sustainability team, helped us come up with sort of 6 topics or kind of buckets where our different actions would focus on. And our planning staff took that kind of information, took the information from the focus groups, and we've kind of lumped it together in, I guess, 4 different chapters or 4 different topics that you're going to see throughout the plan. So I'll quickly go through these. And this is where the action table, the draft action tables, really focus on activities that will help us get toward these sorts of objectives that you see in these 4 chapters. And so one of them is creating a green circular economy. And that's, has to do with both food economy and how we use our land and produce our food, but then also reducing community waste. And then I think the piece that really the city has a part to play in is thinking about a sustainable wastewater treatment facility, right? And I know you're going to hear a little bit about all the work they're doing at the wastewater treatment plant. They always have lots of different activities going on. And I know Odors is one of those projects they've been working on. The other one is accessible complete network. So here we're talking about our infrastructure and transportation network. And our actions are kind of organized in 3 areas. So activities that can help us strategically increase density. So this is looking a lot more at our land use and how that density can help our community members make different decisions about their travel, modes of travel, right? We also have a goal to create a non-motorized transportation system that's easy to use and safely connects to different resources and places around the city, and then making transit a more viable option for more trip types and more users. And we've been having some really nice conversations with Metro Transit about some of the things they have planned. And then our 3rd chapter here is affordable, efficient city. This one has a lot to do with energy efficiency in all sorts of energy types and trying to kind of change those over and transition those over time. So we're looking at transforming energy usage at home and across the city, commercial buildings, to be more efficient and cleaner sources. So we're talking a lot about, electrification and how we change from something like a natural gas heating system to something else that's going to have lower emissions over time. We have some activities and actions around accelerating local renewable energy investments. So that's not only at the city, but it's thinking about some of, like, for instance, the incentives that my department offers to different developers, and thinking about how we can encourage more renewable energy investments. And then lastly, I think the third leg to this stool is decreasing emissions from vehicles, and then of course any motorized equipment. And there are, once that table comes out, you're going to see it's, part policy making, it's part offering programs and assistance to building owners, and a little bit into residential, although residential, you'll see, is a little bit harder for us to get to as the city. We don't have as much influence. We enforce the building code, but we don't get to create our own building code. So we do have some of those actions you're going to see that are more advocacy driven, because that's kind of the part that we can play as the city, maybe as part of a peer network with other municipalities throughout the city. And then the last chapter here is a big one. And I do think it's one of those that ECC's probably done quite a bit of work in and might be able to inform us a bit more. But this is that healthy prepared community is what we're calling it. And so it has both to do with sort of our physical environment, and then also has to do with some of our natural resources and how we kind of interact with them and plan for that sort of thing. So we're looking at actions that help us equitably increase the number of healthy trees across the city. So this is looking at kind of where our tree canopy is and how we make sure we're both maintaining and then thinking about expanding across the city so that all of our neighborhoods have the benefits of a healthy tree canopy. We have protect and enhance both the natural water system or watershed and our built water infrastructure. Protect and increase biodiversity. We heard that a lot from different groups, and we definitely heard that in the Imagine Kalamazoo planning process. And we have a lot of actions around kind of how to protect and increase biodiversity in an urban setting, recognizing that, you know, we are a city, and in some places density is going to serve us best. In other places, you know, we're going to have more open green space, but that also we know all people in the city want to have access to that green space as well. And then we also have protect community health and resilience. And some of this is the work we're doing, like in my department, to reduce lead exposure in homes. And then I also know on the water treatment side of things, the city's, you know, working at decreasing lead exposure in the drinking water system. And so you're going to see a couple of different actions around kind of helping the community be more resilient in that way. I think flooding, if it doesn't come on this section, it might be the protect and enhance natural water system, but that's some of the presentation that Director Baker gave to you guys last year about looking at flooding in a really comprehensive way and trying to come up with some big diversion type projects. And then also we have create a built environment sensitive to wildlife impacts. And so this is where we're going to be looking at like the bird safe design and some of these more wildlife driven goals and objectives. Okay. So this is just sort of one of the examples, right? If you take one of those like we're calling them the sub goals from those 4 different areas, for each of those, we're going to kind of have the plan will be laid out. We're starting to work on these where you're going to see a sort of strategy connected to each of those, right? So it's not just actions, but it's coming together in a bigger strategy. And so the example I put up here is that transform energy use at homes and buildings throughout the city to be more efficient and cleaner. And so, you know, we'll have a lead department identified in each of these. That's kind of what we're sorting out now. But in this example, it's community planning and economic development, the department I work in. For each of these sub goals, you're going to see the equity impacts and some of the co-benefits. We'll have measures of success, but then you'll kind of have each of them we're working on is sort of this strategy, right? Like in my department, we're saying if we have a great opportunity to work on multifamily housing right now. We have a program and a partnership we're building with Consumers Energy, where they'll help those bigger buildings, bigger energy consumers look at their energy usage, give them access to some rebate programs, and then actually do some work on those buildings. And then what the city is going to have to do is we're going to make sure that our funding and our incentives are aligned with this goal, right? We're going to kind of throw everything we can at energy efficiency. And so that's kind of what we're fleshing out right now, is how each department is going to be looking at and doing these different strategies within their sort of scope of work. And then you'll see targets and timelines. And then likely in certain cases, you'll see sort of this prioritization. And maybe it's going to be, spatially based or in some other way, but you can see kind of an example here. So to give you a sense of kind of what's coming next, by next month, my hope is to have that prioritized action table. So like I said, it has dozens of actions right now. And the feedback we've been getting in planning is, hey, we want a really specific, actionable set of goals and work for the next maybe 5 years. And so we have to do some work prioritizing that table. We have to meet with a couple more departments, and then we got to really prioritize that table. So we have a work plan that's ready to roll. That's, year 1, year 2, year 3. We may have a draft greenhouse gas inventory. We'll certainly know our gaps and have to kind of make that decision. Do we go with state or national averages, or can we get something that's more specific and local? By April, I'd love to be getting some ECC review. And this is where I'm wondering, Aaron, I might reach out to you to talk about, like, can you have a committee or something that would help maybe work more closely with our department, kind of one-on-one, doing some review and getting some of your early feedback, and then eventually then being able to put that draft out to the public. Right now, we're sort of targeting May, and we're thinking about, you know, what does engagement look like? And we're looking into some options, like maybe we need to we're thinking about maybe some topical videos, some sort of short but panel-like videos that can help engage the public. We found with our kickoff event that was done at the very end of, I guess it was 2019. You know, there's definitely a lot of folks in Kalamazoo who are very passionate and well-informed and experts really in sustainability and climate action, but it can be a really difficult topic to engage just the general public on. So we're thinking about ways to do that, especially in the midst of a pandemic, but that would be targeted for May. And then on the city leadership side, they've really challenged us to make sure we have something to city commission in the first half of this year and not continue to wait. And it also aligns very well with some early budgeting that we do. And so we've heard back from like our CFO that would be really good timing for us to be able to come forward with a plan that we know can get worked in then to a 2022 budget or any mid-year adjustments, I guess. So I'm happy to take any questions. I'll stop sharing so we can actually look at one another.
Hey, Wayne. How's it going? Wayne's here. Wayne does not have an excused absence because he's here. So I couldn't remember if you had sent me an email for this month or last month.
No, I had an appointment come up late. That's my fault.
All right.
Hi, Jim. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and all the hard work your team has been doing on this for the last year and a half or so. I think that kickoff event was October 2019. I don't know why it's burned in my brain, but I'm excited to see that we're starting to get into the like public engagement portion of it. I guess I have kind of 2.5 questions. Clarifying question, when you're talking about the one-on-one meetings with the departments, is that just the department directors or, you know, important stakeholders in like purchasing and capital improvements and all that good stuff?
It's so far the meetings we've had have been a mix. I don't think I've had any meeting that's just like the department director. So far it's been like, yeah, key staff, team members that they work with.
Cool. And then, so you mentioned a 90% carbon reduction, and then one of the slides said a low carbon future as kind of the goal. So I'm trying to read between the lines a little bit that maybe we're not setting yet a hard like percentage by year deadline. Is that maybe because we're waiting for the inventory to come in to see what's feasible, or could you talk a little bit more about why the target's not zero emissions or you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So for the presentation, I kept it short and sweet, and I don't think it was an intentional thing to leave out a number. I know early on with the steering committee we were working with, the committee wanted to see a goal that was aligned with the Paris Climate Agreement, right? So that was, I think, 90% by 2050. And then there were a couple of midterm goals in there as well. So I think it might have been like 80% by 2040. We can grab those out, but I do foresee putting a goal like that out there. I think we're going to feel really early on with like any sort of projections 30 years out at this stage. But yeah, you're right. The inventory is going to tell us a bit more too.
Cool. Thank you. And last question. Yeah, so thinking about the timeline, that's good to know that we can hopefully have something by the time the real budgetary discussions start being had. So my question is, is there anything that we as the ECC can do to help make sure we hit that timeline? since I know, with COVID and stuff, there's obviously been unexpected delays. But B, when I'm looking at the portion where we kind of have the ECC engagement and then the public comment engagement, I'd love to hear other ECC members' opinions on that. But unless you're expecting major pushback or changes on anything from us, I'm wondering if we could combine those and hit this even a month earlier. So like maybe do ECC and the public comment at the same time or something. I'm just curious your and other members' thoughts on it. And again, thanks for all the hard work.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I would welcome comments from the ECC members on sort of how they see their role and what ways they would want to be able to provide comment, or what kind of time you would like to be able to sit with us and provide resources.
I have a question too. From, I think, one of the first slides, I have it in front of me. I was wondering what the topic of product hubs is. It's on the list of things like composting, waste reduction, household recycling, and then, yeah, product hubs. Do you remember what that is?
Remind me again, Sharon, were you saying the slides that I just showed, or?
Yes. So this, in the same slide as with this, there's like the picture on the bottom, right? And then there's topics, and it's like probably from one of those engagement days. So I was curious if you knew what that one was.
I think that's like material reuse sort of things. And then maybe some ideas that came out of like community exchange kind of ideas, where you could be just different. Different way. Yeah, exactly. Like different ways to be able to share or reuse materials. And you're right, that came from one of our sustainability team meetings, where we were trying to kind of get all of the ideas out on the table. So I don't exactly remember, I guess, what that idea.
Okay. Yeah, I was basically curious if it was the tool library kind of an idea, or if it meant something else. Thanks.
Anybody else have some questions for Jamie?
Yeah, can I just reiterate to fellow members, just thoughts on combining the ECC and public comment portion to give them either an extra month to work on it, or just kind of speed things up a little bit?
Well, Ian, my 2 cents on that is that the ECC has been advocating, and before I was on, so that's 4 years ago, for a climate action plan. So I would anticipate that when we get a chance to really look at the whole, and I mean, the framework looks great, Jamie. I was already starting to gloss over, which means that you're creating something that is, a dense product, which is exactly what we need. It needs to be a lot of different things in the plan. So once we get a chance to look at it and really go through with a fine-tooth comb, I would anticipate that meeting that we have will probably take up the majority of that meeting. That would be, I would anticipate, because there's so many different things. I really would like to spend a whole ECC meeting just going through that plan with a super fine-tooth comb and really getting into the weeds. And so I don't know if it would be a good idea to try to do that the same month that we're doing some kind of, that the city's trying to do some kind of public engagement. It would make more sense to me that we would give a little feedback and maybe they would adjust, and then take it on, the next month to look for some kind of public engagement. But what does everybody else think?
I agree with you, Aaron.
I do too. I was wondering, and Jamie, you can clarify this. Are you looking for just, a couple of 1 or 2 people from the ECC to work with, your team and with others to kind of, help, run some ideas by us and do some brainstorming? Or did you want the whole, which is what I thought you had meant, rather than the whole ECC?
I mean, I would certainly like Chair Wright and some other members' feedback in that, and kind of how you like to work. But I thought that perhaps, some of it could be expedited, and kind of what Ian was saying, if you had a sort of a review committee, maybe 3 or 4 folks who are really interested in this, or not only just interested, but, maybe have some expertise or, have had a lot of experience in any of this. If you had a committee, then that could help give us some really specific feedback a little earlier on. And so then we wouldn't necessarily, we could structure the public or the meeting a little differently, I guess. Maybe we don't have to go sort of super detailed line by line. I feel like maybe being able to send and submit written comments is some of the best way for the city to get that feedback. Because then, we have it in writing, we can kind of split it up, look at different chapters and start making any amendments or changes that way. And again, we can kind of keep working on this, but I do think it'd be really nice to have some sort of public meeting. I mean, we can do like a virtual town hall or something like that to get public feedback, but we also could use an ECC meeting as that way to engage the public and hear their comments and feedback. And then you all could hear it at the same time without, doing a virtual town hall. But it can be structured a lot of different ways. So
Well, I would be happy to work.
Go ahead, Lori.
Well, this is a little ancient history. As you said, the ECC has been thinking about climate action plan and discussing it. And at the one juncture some time ago, before our chair moved to Costa Rica, he hosted a sort of not really a retreat, but a meeting at his house where we really talked a lot about the future of climate action and the future green plans. And we came up, I think, with some really good ideas and focuses. And also then we all had a really deeper understanding of this process that then we could share with others that we connect with in the community. And I don't think that would be a wasted effort. It might have to be a meeting like this because at that point, of course, we didn't have the COVID problem. But some good things came out of that. And I don't know how, in a public meeting with public input, you can go into that kind of depth. And it feels to me like part of the obligation of the ECC is, in fact, to look at some of these things closely and with some depth and some consideration. I don't know if in the long run, 1 month, or if that means we have to postpone it or if these things go concurrently, but I see two different things happening. The ECC attention to this with the knowledge that exists on this, especially now, that exists on this committee, being able to apply its attention to this very important plan would be worth having at least an ECC meeting, if not a lengthened ECC meeting, to really look at it, because an awful lot of work has gone into it already. And it's certainly a worthwhile thing for ECC to spend time on. So just my 2 cents.
Gail, were you trying to follow up?
I was just saying, I was just expressing my willingness to, to help, to work with this, if you were soliciting, volunteers or whatever.
Okay. Well, here's what does anybody else have a comment on how we kind of go through this? Commissioner Hess?
Jamie, have you been talking with City Manager Ritzema about one of our work sessions? Because we just went to, instead of having our Monday small group sessions with all the commissioners, we have these now committee of the whole meetings, and first and third Mondays from 5 to 6:30 we have work sessions, and every session could be a different focus. And I would get with City Manager Ritzman as soon as possible to get on one of our sessions in April, perhaps, because honestly, the budget setting for 2022 will begin right in April, May, June. That's going to happen then. So the sooner the better that we have the plan to commission and get to work on it and understand it, and then tweaking and then voting on it in June.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been working with Deputy City Manager Chamberlain and Assistant City Manager Lamb, and yeah, we'll have to try to get on those schedules soon.
I had one.
Well, and that's where you could take public comments you come in and public comments can be taken at those meetings. And so
Okay,
they're publicized and people call in, believe me.
that's good to know. I haven't done one of the committee of the whole yet, and that's nice to know the public. That's another way for the public to give comment too.
So fun, so fun. Okay.
That sounds good. That way we could kind of have we could have at least two this is an open public meeting. We could advertise it, this is the date in April or whatever it was where the ECC is going to be, having a public discussion about this. And then you could also use that committee of the whole for a second public input. Where is the plan on a dedicated staff to collect all this information and communicate, facilitate between departments, and ideally facilitate that community and regional effort at reducing greenhouse gases?
Yeah, so that was one of the conversations. We did one-on-one department meeting, but it was, Mr. Chamberlain and Ms. Lamb, and also Mr. Vizenzi, our CFO, kind of talking about sort of from leadership's position, how do they make sure we have the resources and some sort of staffing model to move this forward. And so we're kind of in those early discussions of like, what does that look like for a budget to make sure we have someone in place to lead these efforts. And so I think there was a lot of agreement around, we'll need someone to lead this. It's not like we can just rely on what staff we already have. But then at the same time, whoever is charged with, if it's a new staff person or someone who's charged with leading this, they'll have to depend a lot on and have some sort of team that's interdepartmental, right? This body of work falls into a lot of different departments who have, existing staff with existing expertise. And so it'll have to be a combination of perhaps, someone new to lead this and take this effort on full time. And then also, using the resources we have throughout the city in lots of different departments.
Is there a draft job description or like an outline of a draft job description?
I don't know exactly what it'll look like in the plan. So I got a little bit of, I don't think we're there yet on what it looks like. Yes, we talked about we didn't get too much into the details of, what classification, what the staffing looks like. I think there were a couple of different approaches and options laid out that we looked at and discussed, and I'm not sure, I feel like I got a couple of different, our team got a couple of different perspectives on like, do you put staffing into a plan or do you just create a plan because you can justify that this work needs to happen, and then it's just city, it's the city's job to make sure that they have the capacity or hire new folks to, make sure that work happens. I mean, not a lot of our plans necessarily talk specifically about staff. Like that's not, and I'd also like, we don't want a plan to be limited by staffing resources either. We have to make a plan because we need these things to happen for these reasons. And then we'll have to make sure we have the resources to make that happen. So I will say we have been talking about that because that's a budget issue, and budget talks are already happening for next year. But I don't know what that looks like in the plan just yet.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. And Ryan Stoughton, I apologize that we are going long. You are on as soon as we're done with Jamie. And so if we can kind of wrap up this conversation, I would suggest that as soon as Jamie and her team are ready with a written draft, that gets sent to the ECC, and I can, send an invitation to, well, first of all, that'll be shared with everybody, and you can submit written, we can have some written input just among the ECC to discuss via email. And then I would say, let's have a meeting in between our regular monthly meeting with whoever would like to show up. I doubt it would be everybody, but maybe we'll get a bigger turnout. I wouldn't mind getting as many people together as possible, kind of on the, you know, the in between one of our meetings. So around the first of whatever month, or no, the second week, what is it? The first week of whatever month. And have a meeting where we kind of go through it as like a subcommittee and really try to, and take in all the, whatever suggestions, written stuff that ECC members have put, and then be able to submit all of that stuff to Jamie's department prior to the following month's meeting, so that they can already have some feedback, or, you know, whatever the communication is. And then at that next meeting, we can again go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. But that way we'll be able to get some of the critical thinking and communication out of the way before we get to a meeting where then we would have to wait another month to, you know, to see some edits, or however that might look. That was long-winded. Does that make sense? I see heads nodding. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Or Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to wrap up with?
I'd be happy to help with whatever and expedite things and just
Great.
help in general.
Great. So I don't know if that would be, when did you say you could have a draft to us by, Jamie?
I still have some department feedback that I have to get, and then we'll need to have sort of a final wrap up with, so step one is you get all the feedback on the draft table from departments, but then a draft plan would have to go back out to city departments and city leadership as well. So it's going to kind of depend on how, you know, how those sorts of reviews happen and how much, you know, amending and changing that I see within the department. So I kind of hesitate to be able to have a concrete date for you now, but once I get a little bit further down the road on a couple of those things, I think in the next couple of weeks, I'll reach back out to you and start giving you some better dates so we can get calendar holds out there for everyone.
Great. So Ian, I'm hoping that kind of splits the difference with what you were mentioning, trying to speed things up. I agree. The quicker we can get something going, the quicker, you know, the more likely, like Commissioner Hess said, the more likely it's going to be a reality in the budget, which means it's a reality in real life. So
in action, it's all about compromise.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Hearing no more comments, not seeing anybody giving me the, hey, wait, I have something to say. I don't see it. Okay. Thank you very much, Jamie. We appreciate your time and your effort, and we eagerly await the official draft copy of the Kalamazoo Sustainability Plan. All
right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
We'll stay in touch.
All right. Moving on to update from Ryan Stoughton from wastewater treatment facility about the ongoing efforts of the Kalamazoo Odor Task Force. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Aaron, and the rest of the ECC members for allowing us to join tonight and provide an update on the good items that we have going on and within our fence line here.
All right.
I do want to, send Jim's apologies. He had to take another call. He's working with our EnviroSuite vendor on getting some initiatives we have in the pipeline with them rolling out and get that moving forward. So, and I did not present or create a nice PowerPoint like Jamie did. So hopefully just kind of a talking head is good here for everyone.
Well, that would be good, but all we have is the talking. We don't have the head. You have.
Yeah. I assure you, there's nothing joyous about anything here. So, I assure you that just the voice is good enough. It's
okay.
A good radio voice.
All right. Thanks for coming tonight, Ryan.
Oh, yes, anytime. I'd like to start off mentioning that we have submitted the Q4 of 2020 report for the Odor Task Force for the City Commission. I believe that was presented at a January commission meeting. So that is out there and was presented. One of the additional items that have come up since then that I've been informed of is through this information that we've gathered, the odor studies that we've conducted and submitted up to the state level, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. They have reviewed that information and they're looking to team up with Eagle for additional air sampling within our community. And those two entities are looking at partnering with the ATSDR. It's a federal organization that will provide technical assistance on their efforts. So they're taking the information that we've conducted, we've gathered, and they're looking at taking it to the next level. I don't have a timeline for that. That is something that has just recently been communicated, that those are the efforts to move forward with that group. With that, some of the information that we do provide out that we're really ecstatic about here is the EnviroSuite system. That it's the odor monitoring system that we use to kind of track odors that are generated within our facility and that are emitted throughout the community. We've recently deployed 3 additional sensors than what we had the previous year. The previous year we did a 1-year pilot, and the pilot was successful, so we're continuing to move forward with that software and that information gathering. So we have 3 additional new sensors out in the community. Those were deployed in January, and the additional sensors that we previously had in the community, those were all updated to the newest model. Usually a yearly update on the sensors is recommended from the vendor. So we went through and we just completed in January the update of all the sensors. So our sensors align model-wise with that of our neighbor, Graphic Packaging. They also have an EnviroSuite system. So our 2 sensors are the same model number, at least there. We have noticed that since the deployment, again, it's been about 4 weeks since the new sensors have been deployed, we have noticed that we are receiving lower readings within our sensor network. So we've logged that as an observation. We haven't analyzed it or haven't come up with any distinct definitive correlation to what is causing the reduction in readings that we've been receiving, but it is an observation that we've experienced. So we have that going for us. And a couple of the sensors, as with a lot of things that are brand new, we have had some technical difficulties with those. So we're working through the vast majority of them. And last I heard this week, they all were up and running, but that was earlier in the week, and things may have changed in the last couple of days, but I do believe we're fully online at this point with those. A couple of them, we are looking at moving from the location that they are in because we are experiencing some vandalism challenges at a couple of our locations. So we feel that we have a lot of data from those locations, and we have enough auxiliary sensors within the region that we feel comfortable and confident that we can relocate the sensors that are being vandalized into other locations. Those locations are currently being evaluated at where the most value would be. So I don't have a specific location where we're going to redeploy those, but that is one thing that we're looking at doing, is relocating a few of them to some other areas. Another really neat item that I'm kind of excited for. We're looking at doing another. Yep. Do you have a question?
Well, no, you cut out for a second there, Ryan. Was it just me? No, I think it was just me. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, please continue.
All right. So another really good program that we're looking at getting a pilot kicked off. It's going to be it's going to dovetail with the EnviroSuite data that we receive. So EnviroSuite is our data system for the atmospheric conditions for odors, mainly hydrogen sulfide. The pilot program that we have recommended to city leadership is to put real-time hydrogen sulfide monitoring in some of our sewer systems. So that'll be a real-time data acquisition that we'll be able to review and then dovetail, interconnect with the EnviroSuite system. So that'll be a very neat pilot program to get off the ground and running and see what that data tells us and what we can learn from that, so we can continue to move forward with the efforts that we have to help reduce the odor emissions. Then the side benefit of that is the locations that we're looking at piloting connect with the locations which if you read the odor study that we performed back in late 2020, the locations that we received laboratory data and sensor data during that study period, I believe it was about 6 weeks worth of sensor data. We're going to deploy the real-time sensors in those exact same locations, so we can have some correlation and we can build confidence in data that we're receiving. So we're really looking to get that project, really excited to get that kicked off the ground and running. And then to carry on with odor emissions, we have 4 carbon scrubbers that are being constructed at the plant right now. We're decentralizing our odor treatment, and we are going to individual point source locations for odor treatment. And we have one of those point source units online. We were able to get all the equipment last year and get it connected up and get it started up before snow really came and kind of shut down the fabrication process. But so we have one of them online, and we've been noticing a difference in our facility from that unit. And we have 3 others that are waiting to be put online. We're waiting for warmer weather to be able to do outdoor fabrication. And the indoor fabrication is underway. So that way, once it warms up outside, the crews can move to the outdoor work and continue to move forward. And then we'll start to stage those to come online as the temperatures warm up here. Then with the next kind of odor project that we have in the pipeline is we're looking at constructing this year a biofilter that will treat the odors from the sources that we've identified through the study that we conducted last year in the fall. That's going to be in sewer. It's going to treat the sewers gases. I shouldn't say gases, the sewer atmospheres within the pipe network leading into our plant, and draw that out from the sewer network within a localized region to our facility, and treat that before exhausting it to the atmosphere. Whereas now it just naturally would vent to the atmosphere through natural means. So we're going to draw it, point source treat it, and then exhaust it to the atmosphere that way. We're currently working through the proposal process to bring some equipment manufacturers, identify the manufacturers that are out there, and be able to secure a partnership with the equipment manufacturers to get that going. And then in tandem with that, we're also in communications with the state Eagle Air Quality Division to work through the details of our permit to install with the Air Quality Division, so we can determine the constituent bases in which our permit requirements to treat. And kind of to piggyback off of Jamie's sustainability goals, one of the primary reasons, if you kind of look at the odor treatment devices that we have throughout our plant, the 4 that I mentioned before use granular activated carbon media. So they use absorption as their means of odor treatment. Those worked best in those areas where the contaminant was. And in this instance, we evaluated the opportunities, and we went with the biofiltration, which is a biological method, which is a much more sustainable method. We use biology, microorganisms to treat the odors versus expendable carbon as the primary source to treat the odors. So that was kind of one of the primary sustainability initiatives that, with teaming up with Jamie and her group, to be able to make sure that we focus on that component and make strong sustainable decisions on projects where we can as we move forward. So that's where we're hoping we're on the timeline to look at turning the lights on, so they say, to that building yet by the end of the year. So we should be able to get beneficial use out of it, within hopefully a year from now. All things considered, it's January, and or February, sorry, and a lot can change in a few short months. But for a timeline, that's what we're hoping for on that project. I don't know if there were any other questions, any other items. That's kind of the short list of items that I have prepared to present, and I was thinking probably more of a question and answer session.
Ryan, when when does work get started on the that junction chamber?
That's the part of that biofilter. So that is the part that we're in design right now, working with being able to get a proposal or request for proposal out there so we can secure an equipment vendor, a technology vendor, so that we can finalize design. And that's the device, that the treatment unit that we're looking at being able to get the lights turned on yet by the end of this year.
Okay. And wait, you said the treatment unit, but with the junction, moving rerouting that junction chamber is a different project. That's supposed to take more than a year, isn't it?
Yes, my apologies there. So the junction chamber is used for the connection to our paper mill, and not our paper mill, but our paper mill neighbor to the south of us. And there's two things running in tandem with that project scope. Is one, reconnecting their discharge to another pipe that's within their parking lot that is more advantageous to reduce the potential to release odors from their waste stream particularly. And then that junction chamber is also being used as our conduit to feed, to get air to our biofilter. So that junction chamber is going to serve to a different purpose in at a later date and time once we get that biofilter up and running. So we're looking at right now, the primary goal is to remove the odors from the system, treat the odors, and then exhaust the odors to the atmosphere, treat the treated air to the atmosphere. And then after we have that online for a construction phasing, and then also if you've driven by Patterson and Harrison, there's a lot of construction going on with our neighbor to the south, that we have to wait for their construction efforts to be relocated outside of where we would have to construct the new sewer connection. So that's where we decided to focus on our biofilter efforts first, and then focus on following up with that with their new sewer connection.
How long is that the graphic packaging construction expected to last? That's not more than a year, right?
I do not believe so. They're moving forward. They're looking at, I believe in Q4 of this year is where they're looking to have a lot of their K2, which is their machine that's out in front of our front gate, online, and a lot of that construction efforts completed. And then as they complete portions of their K2 renovations, that'll eliminate some of the need for their construction crews and staging and that within their existing parking lot. So we're in continued coordination with graphic packaging as far as timeline. Right now, we don't have a definitive timeline as, to be able to say it's going to happen, X month or Y month. But what I can tell you is it is still active. It's still on our books. It is still an active project that is in the pipeline that is a primary focus to be able to complete that work once the construction site is cleared from their construction efforts.
Okay. Cool. Any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I've got some.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan. So with the EnviroSuite stuff, what is the end goal with that system?
So the end goal with that for us is to develop a baseline for what's out there, right? So we can't, as an asset manager and a project manager, I can't construct projects unless I know what the need is. So the primary goal for me is to use the EnviroSuite data to determine what projects are needed and what type of scopes are necessary within those projects, right? So that's for baselining, that we have the plant sensors. We have 6 of them within our plant site, scattered throughout, so that way we can determine where source odors are from within our plant. And then we have some within our community where our plant could have an impact on. So that's the ultimate goal for us, is to be able to take that data and determine if there's processes that are, a routine, emitter and then develop operational strategies that might mitigate those odors. And then if operational strategies are incapable of mitigating the odors, develop capital adventures to be able to mitigate those odors. That's the ultimate goal from my end, is to be able to use that data for.
So what concentration, these are hydrogen sulfide sensors, right?
They are, yes.
So what is the cutoff of when you take action or something needs to be done when you get a reading on those sensors? What concentration justifies a project to happen?
Well, it really depends on the consistency of the odors. I mean, if there's, we don't want to expense a lot of public dollars chasing a one-off data read. So it would really determine on the long-term readings of the odor and the impact.
So let's say, from what I gather from the EnviroSuite website, it can tell you where the odor is coming from based on your sensors. So if it's coming from the wastewater treatment plant and the levels are high for a long time, and high is something above your limit, what would that limit be?
Right now, we do not have a limit. We do not have an air quality permit as of yet. The biofilter will presumably provide us an air quality permit. But right now, hydrogen sulfide is an unregulated compound.
Okay, because we do have that year's worth of data that you guys did on the pilot program, and as you alluded to, there are some high spikes in there, and then there's some data gaps where it sounds like the sensors were turning off. So, yeah, we're curious on what causes those spikes, and then when it should be, when it's problematic. Like, when is it something that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, and that's where I would turn to what MDHHS and Eagle is looking to partner with and continue our data gathering, and then connect with ATSDR to determine those community limits, right? So that's part of what that program, that those groups partnering with the technical team is working to develop.
Do you have is there a cut sheet for the sensors you guys got that you can share with us?
I believe I can provide one. I personally do not have one, but I will be almost certain that there's a cut sheet that I can provide. Yes.
And then last question was,
what are you asking for, Scott? Is that a cut sheet? Is that different than the data that we already, those graphs that we already looked at?
yeah, it would be like a little kind of like a user catalog sheet that shows you, okay, this is the sensor, this is what it reads, this is its ranges that are realistic, and just, info about the technology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question I had was, for those 3 new ones, what were the locations for those 3 new ones?
The 3 new ones, we put one at the Northside Association on their property. I believe it's North and Park, I believe it is. We installed another unit at Crom Prouty Park. And then we installed the 3rd sensor at Rockwell Park.
All right. Thanks.
And it's the Verberg Park sensor that we're looking at relocating to an undetermined location at this point, but that's the unit that we tend to experience the vandalism.
And so I guess, was there any conclusion from those large spikes that you had been seeing in the data? Like what's causing those?
No, we don't go through and normalize the data. We utilize the data as it exists. It's one-off spikes and such. We haven't been chasing down at this point. So that's, I don't have any feedback on causes for individual one-off spikes.
Yeah, that would just be something we'd be interested in, I guess, just if it would coincide with anything that the water treatment plant operations, is doing, and then there's higher spikes at certain times, or is that being caused by something else? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, I mean, as far as our scope, we haven't been normalizing it. We use it for continued observations and averages and such to be able to determine needs on our end.
Well,
I believe we provide the data. More than happy to provide the data for any other individuals to possibly go through, normalize and such. At this point, it's just not within our scope of use of the data sets.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was asking what the goal was, because it seems like that would be your goal would be you use the data to figure out something, or you're putting the sensors out there to learn something about what's going on. So I'm surprised that's not being looked at.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. Cornell had previously said that and I'm not speaking for him, but what I understood is that when you see those big blips on those graphs, that most of that is attributed to the sensors themselves, either powering down and then coming back online, and it makes like a big blip of electricity. Basically, makes it look like there's a big spike, but those blips don't happen over a long period of time. So I'm not sure. Like, it sounds to me like that answer isn't. You feel like it's not enough. To me, it would make sense if you see this big blip. There would almost have to be like an explosion of sewer gas to make that much in such a short amount of time. You know, that would kind of blow up and then dissipate real quick. But am I remembering that wrong?
No, you're from the Odor Task Force meetings. Yes, there's been communicated different theories and different hypotheses on what would cause it. However, for the in-depth of use that we gain value of from a capital expenditure side of things, individual very, very short term. I mean, the spikes you're referencing, if I recall correctly, were very short-term durations, almost like 2-3 seconds worth of spikes. That those don't amount to much from a capital investment perspective for us. That they're more of an anomaly that we haven't normalized any of the data. We're still utilizing the data for the ultimate goal of developing capital improvement projects to be able to help mitigate the baseline. And then, future stages can be what future stages end up being. But at this point, that's not one of the goals, to be able to normalize those spikes at this point. It's looking at the baselines, developing a baseline, and bring that mitigation into effect.
Scott?
Yeah, just from my experiences working with sensors and stuff, the spike being because of the electronic power loss or something like it doesn't quite pass the sniff test, so I'd be surprised. I'd just be more interested in like getting word from the supplier on what they say, if that's true. And I agree, yeah, they've been shorter spikes on the graphs, but then again, it might also just be when you smell it too. You're smelling the spikes, and otherwise it's so low you don't notice it. But I guess just there's enough spikes on all of the sensors. I would be surprised if all of the sensors are malfunctioning in such a way. And if we got them to measure that, then we can't just discount that as, oh, well, that's errors or something. We gotta get to the bottom of if it's true or not.
Yeah, one thing I will comment on your comments about the sensors, that once we provided the information to the MDHHS, they reviewed all of our information, all of our data, and they've connected the EnviroSuite sensor data to the laboratory data that we provided them through canister and vacuum bags. that they've connected those, and MDHHS is finding that the EnviroSuite sensors are very reliable and a very good data set that they find value in from that perspective. So from a sensor perspective, our fellow state regulators have found great confidence in the devices.
Okay, so the spikes could be real.
They found confidence in the readings of correlating these readings on the sensors during the times in which that we were drawing our lab samples during our fall 2020 odor analysis panel. So we took, the 3 grab samples over 3 different weeks and 24-hour composites and connected, and the Department of Health and Human Services has determined that through their analysis and correlation that they find a lot of reliability in the baseline data that were being provided by those sensors.
Right. Okay. I mean, it sounds like if they're being reliable, then it's data to be trusted.
So
yeah,
hopefully,
and that's where I say that we haven't normalized, we haven't chased down what any of the spikes could be. We haven't ventured down that path yet because we're still working on the initial path, right? We haven't accomplished our initial goals. So at this point, we're still venturing down the initial goals of that system rollout and being able to do our part in mitigating the odors that we're capable of mitigating. And those are the goals that we're still trying to accomplish at this point.
Yeah, and hopefully that cut sheet will help answer some of your questions, Scott. So, but I appreciate you asking all of these in-depth, data-based questions. That's exactly what we should be doing here. So that's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Any more questions for Ryan? We are kind of getting close to 6 o'clock here, which is typically when we try to knock off. We've got a few more things to get through, though. Ryan, thank you very much. Do we have any more questions for Ryan?
Well, I do, but with the sake of time, I'm not sure. I'll just ask the question, and maybe this is so basic that it's already been covered. So these sensors are for hydrogen sulfide, and so how did this odor? Because it keeps being referred to as an odor, but how does that relate to air quality and air pollution? Because odor sounds pretty, innocuous, but are the hydrogen sulfide sensors also sort of like the canaries in the coal mine? It's like they indicate that there might be other pollutants in the atmosphere that are not being measured. Where it's measuring one compound. And so I just like, how does that translate into something other than the smell of hydrogen sulfide? And, if that's too long of a question to ask, for the sake of time, we can move on and I can follow up on some other way.
No, I can probably give you the Reader's Digest version if Aaron is okay with that. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right on the head there, Gail, that H2S, hydrogen sulfide, is the canary in the coal mine as far as sewer is concerned. So hydrogen sulfide is the primary byproduct odor of wastewater treatment and wastewater conveyance. So that's kind of the primary first indicator. It's the simplest compound to obtain sensor data and actually analyze. So that's why we use hydrogen sulfide as one of the primary ones. And it's also one of them that is very low concentrations is the compound that is perceivable to the human nose. So that's why we use that gas, especially real heavily in the wastewater industry, is because it's the most prevalent and it's the compound that at very, very low thresholds is perceivable by the human. Does that answer your question?
Gail, you're muted.
Yeah, in part, but so I don't want to get bogged down the committee. So I appreciate that. Hydrogen sulfide is one of the easiest to measure, and it's one of the strongest odors that come out. So that there's something going on, and it's perceived by humans. and so my question was more of like, what does that mean as far as potential allergens or, substances that are going to cause health problems to people? And, like I said, maybe this is something I need to, follow up with, or, have you get together with me one-on-one or some other way. But rather than just being an odor, I know that that there's currently been a complaint filed with the city about air quality and pollution. So how does this odor tie in with that? Sorry, that's too long of a question.
Complaint, you mean the lawsuit? And the lawsuit, I believe, is just against graphic packaging, not against the city. There is a new civil rights case, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Hess, against the city for kind of largely the zoning issue that we had talked about with Dr. Who was, I can't remember his name now, the doctor from Chicago. But most of what Ryan gave us today was a review of what was already, we kind of already knew what was going on. But the new thing is that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, he just said now, is going to be working with Eagle. And I know that I've seen this acronym, ATSDR, which is like the...
Yeah, I have to Google it every time. It's the American Toxicity.
Yeah, it's connected with the EPA, I believe.
It is. It's a subset of the EPA, and they provide a lot of the technical data, the baselines, kind of like what Scott was mentioning of at what point, at what level, at what number is an actual number. That is the expertise of ATSDR, American Toxicity Standards Division and Research, maybe. Don't quote me on that exact full name, but that's the expertise of that group.
So that's good news, because I didn't know, I knew that the Department of Health and Human Services, or we had talked about that they were going to be looking at that, but it's great. There's a lot of people in our community, like you, Gail, who are concerned about the air quality, and is there an overall, air quality issue that just the nuisance odor issue is not addressing. But now with this, sounds like a beefed up study, that's where we can start directing those questions. I would imagine that there will be a public comment period with Department of Health and Human Services inquiry or study, however they're going to set it up. So, if you're talking to any of your friends in the community or concerned about this issue, now that there is an officially announced, research, local and with some federal assistance research into the issue of, is the odor, in addition to just being unpleasant and a drag on our quality of life, is it also affecting our health overall? Now that we've got kind of an actual something looking at that, that's where we need to. That's where we're gonna continue to talk about that and keep our focus on it here in this committee, and try to keep coming up with good questions to send to these folks that are doing this work.
What was that abbreviation again?
ATSDR. Did you have it, Ryan? It's the Air Toxics.
I do. It's Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry.
Okay, thanks.
There we go. The other thing we're going to do is I'm trying to get connect with a Dr. Bronner, from an epidemiologist from Western, who is why can I not remember the other doctor's name? Friends with the epidemiologist from Chicago that came to speak to us. So hopefully in the next couple of months, Dr. Bronner can visit one of our ECC meetings to talk about asthma rates, community health issues that could, see if there is some kind of connection that can be made between our air quality and health outcomes. Any other questions for Ryan? All right, hearing none. Ryan, thank you very much for your time this evening. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Aaron, and members of the ECC. Hugely appreciate you allowing us to present the projects we have in the pipeline and what we have going on our side of the fence.
Yeah, that's great. Scott and I probably would like to attend the next Odor Task Force meeting, committee meeting. Please be sure to keep sending those to us. I've noticed that you guys have started meeting in the morning, which makes it a little tougher for me and Scott to get there. We don't necessarily have to attend every meeting, but if you could schedule, if it's possible to have one of those meetings scheduled kind of later in the day, I think that might make it easier for Scott and I to attend.
Definitely. We started to adjust the schedules to accommodate different members' schedules. So we'll be moving them around as they keep moving forward. And just to ease your mind, we have not scheduled the next meeting. Okay. So when I get to that point, once I get the meeting minutes out for the most recent meeting, I'll be sure to reach out to you, Aaron, and be able to communicate through you the schedules for the next meeting.
Great. Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Ryan.
Yes. Thank you, Aaron.
All right, my friends, it is 6:04. Let me share my screen one more time, and we're going to do a speed round here to finish up the meeting. Sharon, how's the styrofoam recycling project coming?
Still on track for the first date in April. Nothing really new.
Okay. Outstanding. But there was still something with getting some artwork for the trailer.
Yes, I am working on getting a flyer approved. I just need to verify that the agreed upon price is for the specific size mural before that is going to be published for the community to submit. But I'm hoping very soon here. Cool.
That's very cool. I am really looking forward to the first date of styrofoam recycling. I've been thinking about getting, what you need, Sharon, is like, do they have like a packing peanut costume? Or can we not take packing peanuts?
We can't take packing peanuts, so that would be a little misleading, unfortunately.
Okay. Well,
hey, Sharon, quick question on the artwork process. Do you know who's going to have a final decision-making authority on like what wins, I guess you could say? Because I was just thinking it'd be cool if people in the vicinity of where it's going to be located would be doing it.
So I guess the plan is for it to be a panel of people from the Kalamazoo either public, what's it called? The Greater Art Council of Kalamazoo and the Kalamazoo Public Arts Council or something like that. So a combination of some of them. I'm open to feedback on who else should be in the panel. I wanted it to be a panel thing to try to make it be more fair. But yeah, I guess
I do have one suggestion then. Black Arts and Cultural Center would be a good
okay.
get.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, I think we're good on the styrofoam recycling update on city website. We can get to that next month. I just wanted to make sure that the website reflects current membership. New business. Discussion of regional cooperation. We can kind of wait on that till next month. I haven't talked with anybody from, I had a good meeting with the Portage, a couple of guys from the Portage Environmental Council. We're still trying to kind of stay in touch about triple E spraying and kind of generally about the climate action issues. Summer retreat field trip, man, we're not planning any field trips until there's some assurance that we can do it safely, but I am very much looking forward to that. NFP, so subcommittee reports, NFP review board, Bobby will have to report to us next week. The air and water quality subcommittee, Bobby and I did not meet this week or this past month. We will try to do that next month. Gail, did you have a couple of things to go over?
Yes, I have a couple of things to update. The update you on, like one thing to update and one request. So update on the deer issue. I sent the reports to Aaron, who's put them on the Google Drive, of the 2K college students who did deer surveys with an open iNaturalist project. They were doing it under their advisor was Jen Meluish, or I'm sorry, not Meluish, Mellinger at the Nature Center. And so the students' projects are done, so I was able to get the reports from them. So those are available to read over. I reached out to Jen to see, what's next. The project is still open. She's not sure at this point what, if there's another student that's going to pick it up. But she also put me in touch with Pete Kushner, who's the president of the Oakland Drive Winchell Neighborhood Association. And he is, they are convening a ad hoc urban deer population committee. And so he is working with Laura Lamb, the assistant city manager, Rebecca Kick, and a number of different neighborhood associations and relevant interest groups to research ways to manage the urban deer population. And so I am really happy to learn this because they can take the lead on this. He is, during this month of February, trying to get things organized. He's actually looking for a representative from West Midge Hill. And since I'm on the ECC, I sort of hesitate to wear both hats. So he might craft something for me to put on the West Midge Hill Facebook page to try to get a volunteer. And then, the idea would be that once they get going and organized, that he would reach out, or somebody would reach out to the ECC and keep us appraised or keep us informed. So I like this approach myself because I think this whole deer issue is much bigger than the ECC can handle. And so I'd like, for the ECC to be like a small part of it, and and have this ad hoc committee really take the lead, because frankly I don't want to be in the hot seat. So so anyway, that's my report on deer. I'm happy to try to answer any questions about that, but I encourage you to go and pull the reports off of the internet. They're really not very conclusive because they didn't get a lot of participation except from the Oakland Drive Winchell neighborhood, who were basically stalking the deer, taking pictures. I see deer in my yard all the time. I had 5 deer in my yard last night, but I'm like, the deer and my cell phone are never in the same vicinity. So anyway, take a look at.
Well, we'll have to take your word for it.
Yeah, I did get a picture last night before I chased them away. So any questions or feedback or anything else I can confuse people on with this?
Yeah, Gail, I thank you for doing that work and for being involved. And I would hope that ECC can keep somebody in Pete's committee there, because I know that they're doing the work, that Pete and this larger ad hoc committee are doing work that's definitely going to bubble up to a vote of where we want to, how we want to spend our money and how we want to deal with the deer. It's going to be a citywide conversation. And so the more that we know and the more that you can be involved, I think that would be great. And yeah, because it's at the city manager level, it's definitely going to happen. So let's get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be involved. I know Wayne is also, on the wildlife and natural resource committee. If there's anybody else who wants to be involved, that's fine. It doesn't have to be me, but I'm happy to be that. Like I said, I didn't want to be both the West Midge Hill and the ECC representative to this committee. So
right.
I would be open to that once I'm done with my master's in June, but I have no time now.
Okay, fair enough.
Do we have any other volunteers to maybe at least kind of keep abreast of what this group is talking about? And I'll put the question out via email too, because we're missing, what, 5 of us.
Right.
So I'll put that question out there, see who might be taking a note here.
Okay, and I certainly have a vested interest in staying in touch with this committee and you know, interacting. So I'm happy to continue to do it. You know, it wouldn't hurt if there were 2 of us, so we could take
Okay.
team or something like that. And
Yeah. Okay.
and I realize in Western Hill, you know, it's really geographic. You know, as I think about it, so it's the north end of our neighborhood that really has the deer impact. And people further, just even a few blocks further south, don't see deer. So because they come out of the woods and you know, the park. And so if you're in the first couple of blocks on the north end of the neighborhood, you know, they fill up on your hostas and leave everybody else's alone. So anyway, the other topic that I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of a new topic, and I sent Aaron some information, which he has posted also in the Google Drive. I've not looked at it in the Google Drive, but I'm assuming it is there. And that is the use of a bird deterrent called Avitrol. Avitrol is a product that allegedly is only it can only be applied by regulated pest control companies. Although when I looked it up on the internet, any fool could order it, but it's not supposed to be distributed or used by non-professionals. So this is a product that is basically it's applied to corn. So it's a treated corn product. It looks like it's a food. So it would be put on rooftops in order to deter birds. So the birds would eat this product and they would start to feel bad. And so they would allegedly not go back to this rooftop and hang out and eat the food. And they would also fly erratically, which supposedly will scare other birds away. So, you know, if I have a stomach ache, I honestly can't tell you what it was that I ate that probably gave me the stomach ache. And I'm assuming that most birds are in the same position. If they're feeling bad or they're flying erratically and they're kind of acting like they're drunk, they're probably not really going to remember what happened to get them into this state. So it is a neurotoxin. It affects how the birds fly. Some of them, you know, they can die from it if they ingest enough. So they fly erratically, which makes them easy prey for predator species. They also are likely to fly into windows because their controls are a little bit off when they're, you know, it's basically, like I said, it's a neurotoxin. So they're not under their own, you know, reconnaissance. And so my request to the ECC would be to look over this material, and I'm hopefully will get some more material for you, and to consider asking the city to ban the use of Avitrol within the city limits. And I think that would be possible because it has to be applied, you know, if a business or church were to say, I got this problem, I don't want the pigeons sitting on my roof because they might, you know, they're making a mess on the sidewalk and people might get hit by their excrement. And, you know, what can I do? And the pest control company would say, oh yeah, well, I got this product, I'll put it up there. And so I think it would be possible to have a ban on the use, because then, you know, that information could be relayed to the pest control companies that are active within the community to say, well, you know, you're no longer allowed to use this product within the city limits. And so I have concern for the birds in general because it really isn't a deterrent, it's a toxin. And it also is a secondary toxin to predator species or, and I have seen the corn, I have seen it on the Fifth Third building in remains of birds that the peregrine falcons have caught. And I know that there was one year that I was quite concerned about one of the youngsters who just was flat out for a couple of days. And I suspect it was probably because the youngster got a good dose of the Avitrol, and he did recover. And I can't prove that, of course, but he was pretty flat out for a while. So we haven't lost any of the peregrines to this, that I'm aware of. But it's just is it something that we really need to be, using within the city limits? So anyway, I'll stop talking and let you ask questions.
My only quick question was, Aaron, could you potentially send me another invite to the shared drive? I'm looking and I don't seem to have access to it because I'd love to look over that info. Thank you.
Yeah, I will also reshare because all I did was put the link to that article in the shared drive. So I'll reshare the link to that article too. Does anybody else need me to reshare or like get a hold of you directly to talk about our Google Drive, the shared ECC Google Drive?
I'll try to. I'll get with you if I can't get into it. I'm not good with this Google Drive thing.
Okay. Well, let me know. Okay, Gail, I appreciate you bringing up that topic. I would love to hear. I'd love to hear more about it. I'd be curious to hear from the pest control companies, like directly, or animal control companies, what different products they use and like what their goals are with those products. I don't know if it would be possible for us to, and then we'd also have to talk with city attorney. I'm not sure how, functionally speaking, I'm not sure how citywide bans or ordinances work in that manner.
Well, I don't either, but I wanted to start a conversation about this and see if we can get some traction on it through the ECC.
Great. Well, let me know, I guess, if you got anybody that you think would be able to come to speak to any aspect of that over the next few months, so we can kind of talk it out and see what's what. How about this? I will, maybe I'll just, I don't know, Commissioner Hess, maybe I can just email Jeff Chamberlain directly and ask I don't know if there's like a regular process for looking to make a very targeted local ordinance like that.
That sounds like a good idea to me, based on our last conversation.
Yeah. Bans. Okay. All right. Thanks, Gail. Waste management and litter. Sharon, any updates for us?
That's pretty much been combined just with styrofoam right now. If anyone, I was just thinking, is interested in like any other category of that, I'm happy to team up and do more than one thing in that subcommittee. So let me know.
I think we should do a field trip to the recycling plant or the sorting center.
I mean, I'm down for that as well, for sure.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And honestly, I'd be good with kind of informally calling that our first field trip once we can get back out into the world. I think that'd be fantastic.
I can email Wendy, I guess, as Melissa. Is that who you think would be the best person to?
Yeah, Wendy
email?
Burlingham.
Yeah, see if that's possible, because I know it's via a contract with the city. So it's not exactly the city's property or anything, but I will see if she's able to see if that's possible.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Sharon. Ian, any updates on the Planning Commission?
Yeah, nothing super interesting. They did a approval of some rezoning on East Side, and talked about a fraternity village consolidated plot, but nothing super relevant to us.
Okay. Gail, any updates with the tree committee?
The tree committee did not meet again this month in February. I don't know why, just got a notice that the tree committee didn't meet. So I don't really have anything. I don't have anything to report.
Sharon, what about the Asylum Lake Policy and Management Council?
Since we're combining that with the property north of it, also no movement on that from what I've heard, unless Lori has something to add. But basically, we just talked a lot about the budget for the year, and there's some discussion of what kind of remediation to do for the water that comes down off of the parking lots from that whole like intersection. And that's in motion to work towards that.
Okay. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Rob Lekas is participating there. I'll share, he sent a couple updates in an email, but I'll share that at the very end after I've stopped sharing, so I'm not inadvertently sharing my own personal stuff. Wellhead Protection Program Committee. I've still got a question mark there. Were we gonna, can't remember if somebody was gonna volunteer for that.
I believe you put that it was going to be quarterly, and Jean Tolanda was going to come quarterly to update us.
That's right, because I wasn't having a problem with like editing this thing. Thank you. Quarterly. Jean Tolanda. Okay. All right. Looking forward to seeing Jean again. Kalamazoo River Watershed Council.
They basically, well, pertinent to the ECC, they are also submitting a letter of concern to the Morrow Dam activities. So that's good. And I was just looking through their agenda items here for what they had in their last meeting. That seems to be the main one. Also, Lake Allegan carp removal project and PCB cleanup. I think they had a speaker, Shannon Johnson, talk about that. So that's all I got there.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott. And we've already heard from Ryan Stoughton about the Odor Task Force. There wasn't really anything from Parks and Rec. I can probably leave it till next time. Any other comments for the good of the order?
Is this where I bring up that there are 2 public comments? I realized that was earlier on. I tried emailing you.
Too. I forgot to mention it earlier.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wayne, first, then we'll listen to these public comments.
So at Western, we have the climate change certificate program, and we just got a grant, and we're looking to help assist individuals with their financial packages if they are a part of the program. So if you are interested in the climate change certificate over this next year, and you are interested in applying for funding at Western Michigan University, please email me, and I will get you set up with the right people.
Okay, good stuff. Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. And can we hear? Oh, we're down to just a few folks, but that's okay. Yeah, if we can hear those public comments, it'd be great.
Yep, just one moment. Just share my computer audio, and here we go.
My name is Richard Stewart. I am a resident of the city of Kalamazoo in the Southtown neighborhood. I'm calling to ask the Environmental Concerns Committee to assist us in the Southtown neighborhood to prevent the destruction of our only remaining natural green space. It is our only natural watershed, natural wildlife habitat, and it's just the last feature that we have that's natural. It's a 4-acre parcel between Lake and Stockbridge, just east of John Street. Starts behind the row houses and stretches to the city yards. This property is under target by predatory developer that originally applied to have rezoning of the 9 parcels and was denied for that by the zoning board. On record, they stated this was not the appropriate location for the project. However, the predatory developer then went on to sidestep the zoning board because one of the parcels already had CC zoning. They were able to attach the other parcels that weren't zoned properly and take advantage of that aspect of it. So as it sets, the developer has just gotten through on a fast track site plan for a 77-car paved parking lot to go over our current natural feature. The Natural Features Board added the site to their natural features blanket list that they have yet to vote in, but they included it in the list. Because the predator developer is chaired by Mayor David Anderson, he's been able to leverage his political connections to destroy our neighborhood feature. We ask that the committee look at this property because for the long-term carbon footprint, it gives us some protection in an area that's otherwise already developed. The area is known for flooding since KVCC built up the 12 acres of a watershed across the street, and it's compounded the problem. The sewer systems already have back pressure in this area, so the pavement is going to, I would appreciate any assistance you can provide to protect our neighborhood feature. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tina McClinton. I live on Lake Street, and we had came and talked to you guys about trying to save the green space next to my house, which is 5 acres of natural green space. It has a natural watershed. It has wetlands. It helps us with flooding because the ground absorbs the water. There's a lot of big old trees in the woods. We also have a lot of animals. We just seen a falcon just the other day. We have pictures of the owls. We've gotten pictures of owls, foxes, deer, hawks. We even had a couple coyotes that just went through, and they stayed around for about 3 weeks. I don't know if they're still around or not. But this green space helps us in this neighborhood. See, we have issues with the city. The city's sanitary sewers, when it floods, it doesn't flood in front of my house because of that natural green space. That helps me. It helps my home not be underwater and all of our homes not be underwater. So please help us save the last natural green space in Southtown neighborhood. We are still fighting this battle. Even though we were fighting it when we came and talked to you before, we're still fighting it, and we need your help to help us fight this battle. This land helps us survive the flooding. It doesn't flood in front of my house. It doesn't flood around my house. But if this green space is taken away, our homes will be underwater. And poor neighborhoods need green spaces too. You know, it's really a nice little piece of country in the city. It's the last one we have left. When they took away 12 acres to build KVCC growing field, now we flood 2 to 3 times a year. Never flooded till 2008, and I've been here 36. I've lived in my home 36 years. Flooded in 2008, and now it floods 2 to 3 times every year ever since KVCC came and took away all the land to build KVCC growing field. They build higher than our properties, so when they build higher than our properties, their water becomes our water. This isn't fair for anybody to have sewage coming up through their basement drains when it floods, because that's how I get water in my home. It comes up through the drain of the basement. And if you take that green, and it never did it till they took 12 acres of land away. Thank you very much. I hope you can help us fight this problem. Thank you. Bye.
And that is the last of the messages at this time.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Richard and Tina. We met last year. So we definitely have heard about this, talked about this issue at the ECC in the last year or two. I think with that, we need to, hopefully we'll see Bobby again, Bobby Glasser, who's also on the Natural Features Protection Board. Hopefully we can have a more extended discussion about that with him next month to see where that's at.
Could we even get like an email chain going to just start discussing this? Because it seems like the process is in motion, and I'd hate for it to be by the time next month comes that they've already started putting up infrastructure, because I really didn't think about the fact that downtown has been flooding more and more, and it does seem like there is a lot of a shrinking green space, which could be contributing. I didn't even realize that was an option. So this does seem, for our future of downtown, we do need to take this seriously.
I agree. I'd really love for this spot to not be developed. And, you know, I don't know what our role is, but I would love to see if there is something that we could do. And I know it gets pretty dicey because of David Anderson's involvement with the project.
What did we do last year when this came around? Did we send a letter or something?
We did not. We were able to take a look at the site plan. I'm not sure if that site plan is still, if that still is the site plan, but this was, I think this might have been in 2019. It was a while ago.
December or January.
I don't know. We took a look at the site plan, and I know that one of the property owners, actually the guy that owns, I think owns Tina's house, and then he owns a couple houses right next to there too. My understanding was he expressed some relief at seeing the site plan, that within the site plan, there's, I can't remember how many acres they said the parcel is. Most of the parcel is kind of swampy and grown over. It wouldn't be like, it's not like a natural green space where like there's no trails through there. People wouldn't go there. And the previous chair and I, Paul Manstrom, took a walk back through there. Tina, who called in here, gave us a kind of a guided tour. It's super swampy. There was some kind of dicey areas set up back there where it was clear people had been kind of camping there illegally, and it did not look like a particularly safe environment for people. And so with the site development plan, they're setting aside several acres for a park, a natural green space, and they're going to try to clear out some of so everything's pretty well overgrown. But I don't know where the NFP is on this particular piece of land.
It would be good to get Bobby's input, because my concern is that the change in the hydrology. So if they, it may not be a great place for people, but it's an important hydrological area and good for wildlife and trees and stuff. It doesn't have to be a park, that people go walk in, but it's just the presence of the other ecosystem services that are there.
Yeah. What intersection was this?
Say that again.
What intersection was this again?
It's between Lake Street and Stockbridge. Between Burdick.
I have it up on my Google map. I can share it if you want.
Portage Road.
Can you share real quick? Or at least just email us, because I want to at least take a look.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. Yeah, if you want to send that or send a link to that map. In terms of the hydrology, from what I recall about the discussion is that points that Richard and Tina have brought up about it being that swampy area being a natural sink for water, and they also both mentioned the KVCC facility that's across Lake Street there, right next to the park. My recollection from the conversation is that neither of those two items, the natural green space or the construction at KVCC, are having as great of an impact on flooding as what Mr. Stewart and Ms. McClinton are mentioning. But don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that that's how the discussion went last time, but we definitely should hear from Bobby, who is a hydrologist by profession. So I'll be very interested to hear about that next month.
is there any way we could shoot the message out to him and just have him type up his thoughts so we could all see it before, so we can at least come in with an understanding of what we're getting ourselves into?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try to have Bobby and I are going to try to get together before our next meeting to do our air and water subcommittee. We'll definitely talk about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments for the good of the order? Okay. All right. Thanks for sticking around, guys. We will see you next month. Same bat time.
See ya.
Same bat channel.